Hello, today I'm going to sum up Chapter 1, Stats Starts Here. This is from your text, Stats Modeling the World. Okay, so data is a collection of numbers, characters, images, or other items. Okay, it's a long list of stuff. Okay, tells you things. Okay, provides info. All right, statistics is that link between the data and understanding the world. Okay. It's more than just data, okay? Statistics is how we analyze that data, okay? Data can be numbers, names, any other kind of like label. And it's not necessarily numbers. You know, you could say 1 is male, 2 is female, things like that, all right? But absolutely certain, data is completely useless without context, okay? If you do not describe what's going on, it means nothing, right? I just tell you numbers without context, those numbers are not going to mean anything to you. So most of the time you see your data in tables, right? It's the easiest way to organize things. Notice that in this part, we've got in the columns, it tells you what the data is, okay? What this list is, what it is, what those numbers mean. Right? The who would be represented in this row. So Catherine, Samuel, Chris, Monique. All right? Who and what are really important to understanding your data, right? It's clearly labeled in your tables. All right? But not only is the who and the what, you need the when, the where, why, how. The more you know about the data that you collected, the more you can understand how it's all related. Okay? It's just the more info I take in, the better I'll see. That's kind of how I think about it. All right, so we'll start with the who. All right, so the who of the data tells us the individual cases. Okay? Individuals who answer a survey are, of course, called respondents because they respond to you. People on whom we experiment are called subjects or participants. All right. Animals, plants, and other objects are called experimental units. All right. Good stuff to know. Good vocab. All right. Sometimes people just refer to the data values as observations and are not clear about the who. You just say you observe the things you observe. It's not a lot of info. All right. You really need more than that. Okay. Oh, and I meant to say for the who, you can, while people say respondents and participants and subjects and things like that, most often people refer to their subjects as exactly what they are. You know, my college intro class, you're describing the people there. Okay, people who answered a questionnaire at the mall, right? It's usually talk about those like adults aged 20 to 35. Okay. All right. What in the why? Variables are characteristics recorded about each individual. The variables should have a name that identifies what has been measured. To understand your variables, you must think about what you want to know. The what and the why is the whole point of you collecting data, right? Without knowing what you're doing and trying to link those things together, the why, you're really just collecting data for no reason. You know, it helps to look for something, to know what you're looking for, right? As opposed to a needle in a haystack, I guess. All right, typically variables are going to have units. Okay, so hopefully you recognize what a unit is. It's meters, kilograms, seconds, all those things. Okay, they usually tell you the scale of the measurements, right? Useful. When you're also talking about your variables, right? Not only do you want to list the units, but it's important to understand what kind of variable you have, whether it's categorical or quantitative. Okay, categorical is like categories. Right? This would be like your gender, race, ethnicity, county you live in. It doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily compare those to each other, per se. No. it's just like a list of random items. You don't really have a measure to those, right? Quantitative would be like your income, your height, your weight. You can do it from smallest to largest, okay? So understand those questions, the questions we ask a variable, the why of our analysis, and why we're doing this, that shapes what we're thinking, right? And how we're going to treat our variable, and what other items we look at, right? It's important to think of the why we're doing this, okay? It helps us to find those conclusions and understand what we're looking at. Alright, so one example. In a student evaluation of instruction at a large university, one question asks students to evaluate the statement. The instructor was generally interested in teaching on the following scale: strongly disagree, neutral, agree, strongly. So, is interest in teaching categorical or quantitative? Well, on the one hand, we've got how do we label interest in teaching? Is that going to be categorical or quantitative, right? We sense an order to these ratings, right? A 1 through 5, but there are no natural units for the variable interest in teaching, right? Getting 2.5 units in interest in teaching, what does that mean? You know, you might say that someone who has a 4.5 compared to a 1.5 rating, they're happier at work maybe or something. You can try and make an inference to that, but it doesn't, there's not a unit, so that you can't necessarily quantify that, okay? So those variables, like interest in teaching, are called ordinal variables, okay? You have to look at the why to decide where to treat it, as categorical or quantitative. Are we ranking them? Are we deciding on that rank meaning something, that number meaning something? Or are we just talking about the different categories? More interested, less interested. Okay? Alright, counts count. When we count the cases in each category of a categorical variable, the counts are not the data, but something we summarize about the data. Okay, so in this table here, the counts, the 20,345, 7,890, all these numbers is not your data, okay? It's telling you you have that many grounds, okay? It's the counts would be more like your what of the data, okay? The who would be your what kind of shipping method. Okay, let's do another one. So when we focus on the amount of something, we're going to use those counts differently. So another example, Amazon might track the growth in the number of teenage customers each month to forecast CD sales. All right, that's why they're going to do it. They're going to track the growth to determine CD sales. All right, but the what here is your teens. The who is your months. That's what you're comparing, your months, right? And the units are the number of teenage customers, okay? It's just a different way of looking at it, okay? So just watch out when you do counts. Wow, sorry, that was annoying. Hope that wasn't too loud for you. That was right in my ear. All right, let's keep going. Identifying identifiers. Love the headings on these. Okay. Identifier variables are categorical variables with exactly one individual in each category. So very specific things like your specific number, social security number, ISBN, that's shopping, sorry, can't even think, shopping numbers, FedEx tracking number, very specific to each person, okay? Don't be tempted to analyze identifier variables, okay? So if I were to collect, like I did, I collected all your phone numbers. If I'm going to list that, I'm not going to find the average phone number, right? That wouldn't make sense. Okay, so don't analyze identifier variables. Okay, be careful not to consider all variables with one case per category, like year, as identifier variables. Right? The why will help you decide how to treat identifier variables. Okay, so really, just explaining it is going to help you navigate through all this. Okay. All right. We need the who, what, and why to analyze data, but the more we know, the more we understand. When and where gives us some nice information about the context. Okay, so examples. Values reported at a large public university may mean something different than similar values reported at a small private college. We may not always know the when and where, okay, but it's helpful, right? It's good to look at that and put that in our summary, right, in our info, because what if someone else also comes by and looks at it? You know, it'd be good to know. You might get different data if you're doing a study here, or in India, or in Europe, you know. Those are kind of big, broad examples. All right. So, how the data are collected. I don't like that. Data is collected can make the difference between insight and nonsense. Okay. Results from internet surveys are often useless. Okay. Random people type in whatever they want. When people give you, well, we'll get into that later. Okay. It's important to know how you're collecting the information. Okay. I would trust, if I wanted to know information about teachers, would I go and talk to the teachers in the classroom, or would I go to just the mall and just ask some random people in the cafeteria? You know? Things like that. Let's see. The first step of any data analysis should be to examine the W's. This is a key part of the think step of any analysis. And make sure you know the why, who, and what before you proceed with your analysis. Identify the stuff before you start messing with the data. Because if you don't understand this stuff correctly, you might do the wrong test, the wrong analysis. Alright? What can go wrong? Don't label a variable as categorical or quantitative without thinking about the question you want it to answer. Just because your variable's values are numbers, don't assume that it's quantitative. And always, of course, be skeptical. Don't take data for granted. Okay? I know you kids. Alright? You would sit in my classroom, you'd be arguing with me left and right. I just know it. Okay? In a good way. It's good to challenge. So, yes. Always try and think things through. Right? Consider all the options. Oops. Okay, so like, for example, consider 17, 21, 44, and 76. Is that data? Context is critical. It could be test scores, ages in a golf foursome, or uniform numbers for the starting backfield on the football team. In each case, our reaction changes. Right? The test scores, we could find the average, but uniform numbers means nothing. So think about that. Alright, so let's do some examples of identifying the who, what, when, where, and how. Alright, a Consumer Reports article on energy bars gave the brand name, flavor, price, number of calories, and grams of protein and fat. So the who. That's going to be your energy bars. Okay? The what is everything you asked about it. Brand name, flavor, price, number of calories, why don't you say categories? Calories, grams of protein, and grams of fats. Alright, the when. Oh, you're right. It didn't say. The where. Didn't say. And the how. From nutrition labels. Right? Isn't that how Consumer Reports works? Right? They analyze products, so it'll be off the label. Okay? So let's do categorical variables versus quantitative variables. Alright, so your quantitative, I think, are pretty easy to name. Those are, it tells you how many. So that's going to be like your grams of fat, your grams of protein, your price, and your number of calories. Alright, all of those, you kind of think about, I like to think about it as like averages, right? I can find the average gram of protein, that makes sense. The average number of calories, the average price, that makes sense. Alright, the next part would be categorical, and that would be your brand name, your flavor. Okay, you can't compare those. I mean, yes, you could say one flavor is better than another flavor, but you can't say by how much, to what degree. Okay? Again, you personally might be able to, but as a community, there is not an agreed upon unit of measurements. Alright, let's do another one. Okay, so the WHO, a report on the New York Marathon listed each runner's gender, country, age, and time. So the WHO would be Boston Marathon runners. The what? Okay. New York Marathon runners? I don't know. Anyway, we're just going to call that submit up to a typo. Okay, so the what? Where am I? Okay, so the what is everything you asked about it. Gender, country, age, time. If you're wondering what HMS, that's hours, minutes, and seconds. Yeah. The when, not specified. The where, Boston. I'm so silly. I'm sitting here thinking of New York City, not Boston, not New York the state. Ooh, alright, can you tell I've had a long day? Anyway, yep, good thing I'm on the almost the last slide. How, alright, how, that's on your entries, right, based on the New York Marathon's entry, your registration. Okay, your categories, categorical variables, that's going to be, do those in green again, that's going to be gender, that's going to be country, and your quantitative variables are going to be your age and your time. And again, that's pretty obvious here because you've got units, right? Hours, minutes, seconds, years, alright? Oh, and I already had this on the screen. We already did the what can go wrong. So never mind, I guess that's it, guys. Tune in to the next video for chapter 2.